Hey everyone, just gonna talk a little bit about rational functions and their graphs and some things that you can do with them. So right now I have a rational function up here with a few variables inside. So we got a x minus a, x minus b on top, x minus d, x minus e on the bottom. And you see the graph over here, the vertical lines, those are the vertical asymptotes. Right now correspond to d, which is negative 4.2, and e, which is 1. So we see over here negative 4.2, over here at 1, that's our vertical asymptotes, and then the a and the b, 3 and negative 4, and those are going to be the x-intercepts, so over here at negative 4, and then over here at 3. And I just wanted to adjust some of these to show you what happens to the rational graph as you move things around. So right now I'm changing the 0, right, where the x crosses the x-axis. It was at 3, now it's moving from 3 closer to that asymptote at 1. And as it gets closer, right, the graph starts to get sharper around that area, right? So you'll see that bend kind of becoming a corner, right, as I get close. And then when I get exactly on that asymptote, then it becomes a hole. So if we get exactly on 1 and I start tracing, we'll see right there at 1 I have a hole that's undefined. It's not always visible unless you're clicking on it, but that is what's there. And then when I get past that, a little bit lower, then I'll start to see some of these zeros again now in between. So now we'll get more of this U-ish type shape that's right there. So you can kind of adjust your zeros, adjust your asymptotes. Like maybe I want this B over here not to be so close to that one. Maybe I want it more in the middle. So you can make some of the graph more rounded or more sharp in different areas. Take on a little bit different behavior just by moving the asymptotes and moving those zeros that are either in between or outside of the asymptotes. You can also adjust, right? You'll see this plus k, the height, so I can just shift that whole graph up or down by that value of k. So we're essentially moving that x-axis baseline, sort of where I'm thinking about my zeros crossing, where I'm thinking about the asymptotes crossing, just moving that up and down. And I can change that to a dotted line. That way we know that's kind of a guideline right there as well. So any shift in that K is just going to move, right, everything up and down. So that's what we get with that behavior. Another thing you can do is put in some other constants. So I could put a constant in front if I want to adjust how like tall or how not tall, shrunken this is going to be. So normally this graph is right here at 1. If I want to stretch it, right, I can make that c value bigger. So now everything's stretched by 7. I can also shrink it down, right, to the negative range. So there's negative 5, close to 0, right? We're going to get really close to that dotted line until we actually do hit 0, and then it's just a flat line. So that is your height adjustment, right? So if you have something that you need to adjust the height on, besides just shifting but stretching it, you can do that just by putting a number in front. Another thing you could try is I'm going to put in a c times x in front. And what this does is it gives you sort of these asymptotes. This is I'm going to put in this dotted line right here. Asymptotes that you'll go toward the end of your graph, right? So now instead of a horizontal asymptote, I have this slant asymptote. And you can adjust that value of c, right? So this is going to adjust the slant that the asymptotes are going to head out toward the end, but it also adjusts some of the things that are happening there in the middle. So that's also something that you can play around with if you want. When you're looking at your graph and trying to figure out where you want things to go and stuff like that. So you can get some really weird, right, kind of curves that are going in. with these rational graphs. There's, I would say, even a little bit more control you can do over polynomials. Some of these guys, especially how flat or how wide some of those are going to be, just by adjusting where the asymptotes are and how close you're going to be to those asymptotes. Again, you can kind of adjust, right? So if I move that a value in where I'm crossing, right, then I can start to adjust some of these like shapes that are right there. If you ever want to shift this horizontally and not just vertically, you can replace these x's with x minus h, and if you replace all of them, then you are able to shift your graph right, left and right, as well as up and down with the k. So that's also something that you could put in. We'll do a little bit more with this with the graphing project, but just wanted to mention that for this video. One last thing I'll say is if you put in something like nx squared, cx squared, right, this would also be what we call an oblique asymptote, right? The graph is going to approach these as I head out to the left and right on my graph. So you can have asymptotes that are parabolas or other shapes, cubics, not just lines or slanted lines that go in there. So there's really a lot that you can do with rational functions just by playing around with how many factors you're going to have, what those factors are, if they're going to be linear or quadratic, right? So I could even put in one right here, make that a square, and now that's a different parabola that it's going to approach as we go to the left and right. So I would have to maybe do a little more work to figure out what that parabola is that it's going to face. It should be shifted over a little bit, but there's lots of stuff you can do with these. So that'll probably do it for now. I would just say play around with these and see what you want to do. Kind of get the feel. A lot of it is going to be, I would say, adjusting those asymptotes, right, left or right. So the further out those go, this time the D and the E, right, the wider stuff gets, the flatter it gets in the middle of those two. So, and then you can always stretch it, right, by some of these C factors, stretch it up or down, or get it even flatter. So that's kind of what you can do with some of those guys. Like I said, we'll do another video in which we look at the graphing project and how I might want to think about it. We'll see you on the next one.